So today's our training program is going to be done by Pratap Kumar sir. He is a consultant shoulder and elbow surgeon at Sunrise Group of Hospitals, Kochi, and he's the chairman of the doctor staff. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Divya. We are going to enjoy this teaching program. We've got 1 hour. I have selected 8 scenarios. I don't know how far we will go, but let us see. I don't know the trainee's name, but I have selected some names here. The finalists who are the exam going students. Oh dear, it's not moving. Okay, the first case is you can see the photograph. A 25-year-old male shopkeeper. He was playing football and had a fall on outstretched hand. It's an isolated injury. There's a junior guy there, Akhil Junior from. Can you describe that injury, Akhil? Akhil, can you hear me? Is Akhil there? No.
Hello, sir.
Akhil, can you describe can you describe what you see?
There is a plain X-ray of the elbow joint, which is showing distal humerus and proximal ulnar radius and elbow joint.
Yeah.
There is a medial displacement of the.
So it is a dislocation. Exactly, it's a dislocation of the elbow, isn't it? Yeah. Rather than X-ray, we will call it a radiograph. Okay. AP and lateral radiograph. Okay.
Okay.
So what is this mechanism? Who is next in line? Can somebody volunteer? Is Vivek there? Or Anil Senior there? What is the mechanism of injury?
Fall on outstretched hand.
Yeah. But how does it happen?
Axial falls on the joint.
Yeah. Okay. Is it a supination injury or a pronation injury or a
pronation?
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that question? Vivek, are you there? Naomi, are you there? No. Sanil? No. Either Johnny or Shyam. Anyone there? Okay. Popularly thought to be hyperextension injury, but actually it's a flexion, supination, external rotation injury. As any other joint, like your Low-Hansen's classification, it's a rotation moment. Okay, it's a valgus moment at the elbow with eccentric loading of a medial head of triceps. It's actually a supination, external rotation injury. Akhil, can you tell me what are the stabilizers of the elbow? Akhil Senior.
Lateral ligament.
Then, yeah.
First is the joint, the anatomy of the joint.
Okay.
Then the trochlear groove and its articulation. And then the collateral ligament, lateral collateral ligament, and the medial ligament.
Okay. If I ask you to pick up one structure, which one will you pick up?
Joint, ulnohumeral joint.
Okay. When you answer in the exam, because there are certain buzzwords, okay? Buzzwords. So you need to know that buzzwords. When you are asked about stabilizers of any joint, you need to talk about primary constraint and secondary constraint. Okay? Primary constraints. You know what are the primary constraints of elbow?
Medial collateral ligament.
Which one?
Medial ulnar collateral ligament. and
Okay.
lateral collateral ligament combo.
What are the parts of ulnar? All part of ulnar collateral ligament, or any particular part of ulnar collateral ligament?
Anterior bundle of.
Excellent, excellent. Anterior bundle of ulnar collateral ligament. Any other contributing factors for primary constraints?
Lateral collateral ligament.
Which part of a lateral collateral ligament?
Annular ligament.
No, there are three parts for lateral collateral ligament.
Lateral ulnar collateral ligament.
Oh, excellent. Very good, very good. Okay, so it's a lateral ulnar collateral ligament, and one more is your coronoid. So when you answer this question in the exam, there are primary constraints and secondary constraints. Okay, primary constraint is a anterior band of ulnar collateral ligament, and the coronoid, and your lateral ulnar collateral ligament. Secondary constraints, I have listed there. Can you read that?
Bony congruent, capsule,
Yeah.
radial head, tendon and muscle.
Okay, and tendons and muscle. Interestingly, radial head is not a primary constraint. Okay, that's the commonest misnomer people make. Radial head is a second constraint. Okay, so this is something about the stability of the joint. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole entire concept of it. It's called a ring concept. I don't think for your exam it is very important, but you remember there's a ring concept for elbow stability, okay, with the column anterior, posterior, lateral, and medial column. Now, I want to pick up on someone else. Who else is there? Anyone exam going batch? Let me see. Okay. I don't know who it is. Everyone is hiding there. Shinas. Anyone can volunteer? What are the stages of dislocation? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Akhil is coming to you.
Subluxation.
Okay. Subluxation.
Triangle dislocation.
And a dislocation. Okay. Yeah, what you have said is correct for an MBBS graduate to say, but in the PG exam, that is not the one we are expecting. Okay.
Lateral.
Yes, there are three stages. Stage 1, 2, and 3. It's called a horizontal circle. Okay. So stage 1 is a ulnar collateral part of the lateral collateral ligament. Ulnar part is gone, and that is called PLRI, posterolateral rotatory instability. I will just go through that. Stage 2 is a complete injury of lateral collateral ligament, and that is called partial dislocation, otherwise called, as you said, subluxation. Is called, actually it is called perching. Okay, so that's the buzzword, perching. Stage 2 is a perching. Stage 1 is a PLRI, and stage 3 you got 3 different types. What you need to know is in stage 3, apart from the stage 1 and 2, you got the injury of the medial collateral ligament. Okay, and depending on the posterior band, anterior band, you got 3A, B, C, and C means apart from the medial collateral ligament, your medial mass is also gone. Flexor pronator mass is also gone. So it's a frank dislocation, highly unstable. Okay, now I just want somebody to tell me what is the terrible triad. For your exam, it is very important. Akhil? Akhil? You're there?
Hello, sir.
Akhil, you know what is terrible triad?
So it's a elbow dislocation, radial head fracture, and coronoid process fracture.
Excellent. That's what I want to hear. Okay, it's a radial head fracture, coronoid fracture, and it's a dislocation. So that means it's a terrible triad. The name is a terrible result. Okay, it's a secondary constraint, but coronoid is a primary constraint. Now, let us go to the case number 2. It's a 38-year-old civil servant, had a road traffic accident. It's an isolated injury. Akhil Junior, are you there? Can you just read that photograph?
Sir, it's an AP and lateral view of AP and lateral radiograph showing posterolateral dislocation of elbow.
Okay. Is there any fracture? Just tell. If you say yes or no, that's all. Or you are not sure.
I'm not seeing any associated fracture, sir.
Okay, so you are not very sure. So we'll go for a CT scan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I will help you out there because you're a junior guy. What is there? My cursor going somewhere there.
Coronoid fracture is there.
Which one?
Coronoid.
Exactly. It's a coronoid fracture. Apart from, there's a minor radial head fracture as well. But this is the one I want to concentrate on. It's a coronoid fracture.
Yes, sir.
Akhil,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
can you classify, Akhil Senior, can you classify the coronoid fracture? Akhil?
Again and Murray.
Ah, very good.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
Driscoll classification.
Go with the Brian Murray classification. You remember that?
So tip. One is a tip. First one is a tip fracture of the tip of the coronoid.
Yes.
Then second one through the body, and 3 is the base through the base.
Okay. Yeah, that's roughly that's the same. For type 1 is the tip. You know what is attached in the tip? It's only capsule attached. So we are okay. Okay. Type 2 is a Regan-Murray classification. Type 2 up to 50% is a fractured. Okay. And type 3 is a more than 50% to the base, up to the base. So that is a real problem. Coronoid will act as a anterior strut, and you will lose the congruence of the joint. So as soon as you start extending the elbow, it's dislocating. Okay, so anterior strut is lost. So that is the importance of in the type 1, only the capsule is gone. In type 2, what is attached is the brachialis. Okay, remember brachialis tendon. Brachialis is a secondary constraint. It's a dynamic constraint. Okay, and type 3, you got a anterior strut and anterior bundle of ulnar collateral ligaments. Both are gone. Remember, for the exam, you remember anterior bundle of ulnar collateral ligament is attached to the medial facet, anteromedial facet of the coronoid. That's the importance of it. So in type 3 fracture, you will lose the anterior strut as well as the anteromedial facet, where the anterior bundle is attached. Okay, management plan and approach, probably I will leave that. I don't think that is important there. Okay. That's a 38-year-old lady who had involved in a motorbike accident. Okay. Let me see. Oh, sorry, it's the same patient. What we did is we managed it with the anchors. Okay, it's a type 2 injury, so managed with the anchors. How do you mobilize the patient post-operatively? Any takers? Akhil, you can contribute.
Hyperflexion and supination. Hyperflexion and supination.
No. Post-operative.
Elbow should be immobilized. Initially immobilized for a period of 3 to 4 weeks in a hyperflexion and supination position.
Okay. Now there is nothing called hyperflexion or hyperextension here, because we want to move it as early as possible. So once the soft tissue is healed, then what we'll do is we'll do a dynamic mobilization. Okay. What we want to avoid is a valgus varus strain. So we use something called myo brace. For any elbow problem, we are using myo brace. Okay, remember that functional elbow brace. That means we can control the range of movement, we can lock the device, and we can control the range of movement. Okay, and serially we will increase the range of flexion extension. At the same time, valgus varus stability will be there. Okay, next case, we got a 50-year-old heavy alcoholic, fell off stairs. If there is no take case, Akhil Junior, can you read that? If it's not clear, just tell. It's not clear. What do you see?
So radio joint distal.
Yeah, go on.
The proximal radial joint distal.
Proximal radial joint, how do you decide on? Proximal radial joint should be congruent with what? Capitulum. Whichever position, whether it extension, flexion, or whatever it be. Capital, it is congruent with capitulum. Yeah. So we'll go for a CT. I said when it's not clear, we'll go for a CT. I will read that CT for you. He has got a coronoid fracture, olecranon fracture, okay, and a part of the radial head is also fractured. So how do you manage? The question is something else. So I will show you what we did. Okay, this coronoid is fixed with a special plate. Radial head is fixed with the screws, and olecranon fixed with the locking plate. Okay. So what are the problems in fixation in alcoholics? Akhil Senior?
They won't follow the posture
Yeah.
mobilization.
Yeah. So they are not compliant with the regime. Second thing, infections.
Comparatively high chance.
Yeah, slightly high infection. And really the third thing, alcoholics, their liver is gone, isn't it? Or they got a poor liver problem. What is it do with orthopedics? Bone formation or anything like that? Liver?
Right. Calcium metabolism.
I'll give a clue. 25 hydroxylation of something.
Metabolism.
25 hydroxylation of what?
Cholesterol to 25 hydroxylation.
Okay, 1 dehydrocholesterol to 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. Okay, 1 hydroxycholecalciferol to 125. So that is loss. That is defective. So that will end up. They will end up with what? Last week, Chandrababu sir was talking about this, isn't it? He asked somebody. Osteoporosis. So can you highlight what is osteoporosis, or can you answer these questions? What is osteopenia? What is osteoporosis? It's a revision for the last week. Can you tell me what is osteopenia and what is osteoporosis? Anyone?
Osteoporosis, when the bone loses, there is a reduced bone density, which makes bone so brittle. Chances are
So what is the difference between osteoporosis and osteopenia? Anyone else there to become?
Osteoporosis is more severe than osteopenia.
Okay, so there should be some quantification, something like that.
Yes, sir.
What?
1.5.
Yes. What you said is correct.
Bone density is 1.5 minus 1.5 in osteopenia and minus 2.5 in osteoporosis.
What is this 1.5 minus 2.5?
Bone Z score.
T-score, sir.
Which score?
Z score.
Is what? Okay. For you should be very clear about that when it is asked in the exam. Okay. WHO definition is for osteoporosis is T-score more than minus 2.5. Okay. T-score. We are looking for T-score only. Okay.
Okay.
And osteopenia is between minus 1 and minus 2.5. That is osteopenia. And there are two scores I have written there. T-score and Z score. Anyone knows the difference? What is the difference in T-score and Z score?
T-score is
Z score is age matched.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Okay. So is it
T score is for normal healthy female of 20.
male or female? What age? What age?
18 years. Female patient.
Which age we are taking it as reference?
21.
Okay. That's voting age, isn't it? Now, the cutoff is, the reference point is 30 years, okay? And I will tell you why we are taking 30 years, okay? Remember what I'm telling now. Why we are taking 30 years is bone density increases up to the age of 28 in female, 32 in male. After that is going to be on a plateau or slightly decrease. So 28 and 32 for female and male. We are taking the average of that, which is 30 years. So T-score is for a healthy adult. Okay, and we are comparing the gender and ethnicity. Okay, but not age matched. Age is a 30-year-old. That's what is a T-score. But Z score we are matching the age as well. Okay, so if you want, so what is the importance of Z score? So just forget the Z score for the rest of the things. T score is the one we are looking for the osteoporosis. Okay, Z score. What is the importance of Z score then? Akhil?
No idea, sir.
Okay, these are the questions we are to be asked in the Viva. Okay, I will just highlight you because you are the only one who is answering. Highlight it for you. It's below 30 years. Okay, so for pediatric age group and younger age group, we need to use a Z score, and for research purpose, and to see the progress year after year. If you are taking the bone density, to see the progress of your treatment, these things, Z score is very important. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Stop moving. Okay, let me move on to. Okay, next case is a 40-year-old techie. Okay, he was enrolled in an RTA and had an isolated injury. So the diagnosis is very, very clear. I did a CT for that. Okay. Akhil Junior, you are there? Akhil?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Junior?
sir.
Okay, can you read that?
This is a CT with 3D reconstruction
Very good.
showing posterior dislocation of elbow with radial head fracture and coronoid fracture.
Coronoid is intact there. Okay, I can tell you.
Okay.
So what's can you modify your statement of radial head fracture? What sort of radial head? Is it displaced?
It's a displaced fracture, sir.
Okay, and can you see the fragments there? So more than one fragment, isn't it? So you
Yes,
qualify
sir.
it as
Comminuted fracture.
yeah,
Type
exactly.
3.
So it's like Terminated displaced fracture, okay, of the radial head. Very good. Okay. So how do you classify that?
Mason classification.
Mason's classifications. Okay. So you remember the Mason's classification, but I want you to, Akhil Senior, I want you to tell me what is type 4 Mason. Type 4 Mason.
Type 4 is radial head fracture associated with posterior dislocation.
Very good. Okay. So you know that. I don't have to spend time on that, isn't it? Okay. So that's the importance of it. Okay. Now, what will you do for this patient? So I have already given a clue. Akhil Senior, you can answer because.
So we will look for the stability. We have to take a distal radioulnar joint X-ray also. And
okay, good.
If it's stable, we can plan for excision. If post excision, if there is.
Akhil, you are breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart. Sorry, in the exam, at least, don't in the exam, don't tell you will excise the radial head. Okay, you already answered the question correctly because you are looking at the distal radioulnar joint. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So please don't come out with that answer. Okay.
Okay, we
won't do that.
Try for fixation.
Okay. An option is a fixation. So how do you fix that?
We can replace.
Okay.
We can have a Herbert screw. First we have to reduce the fragment and fix with a Herbert screw, and we can fix with the edge to the body with tape play.
There, if you look at there, it's a dissociation from the shaft. So there's
so
a neck fracture as well.
We have to fix that to the shaft with the plate also.
Okay.
We have to reduce the fragment, and we have to reduce and fix the radial head fragments, and then to the shaft also we have to fix.
Okay, so either a plate and screw fixation, or if you can't, go on. You say correctly.
We can replace radial head replacement. We can.
Exactly. So radial head replacement or a fixation, depending on. Okay. So that's what we do. I have shown you two types of fixation. Okay. This is just coming to India now. Okay. This is one I did in UK years ago. As an anatomical radial head. This is a radial head usually available here in India. Okay. So it is acting as a spacer. Okay. So I won't go into the technical details of that radial head replacement because that is not required at your level. Okay. Now, what is your surgical approach? Akhil Junior, probably you know some approach for the surgical approach for this.
Yes, sir. Koch's approach, sir.
Koch's approach. Can you tell me what is that?
We are taking interval between Anconius and ECU.
Okay, so when you answer in the exam, okay, about a surgical approach, you need to come out with a few things, buzzwords, as I said earlier, buzzwords. Okay, one is your bony landmarks, your landmarks. Second is your internervous plane. Akhil Senior, you need to answer that because it's probably too much for the junior guy.
Okay, so supine position or lateral position approach position we can.
Yeah. What are the bony landmarks for Koch's approach?
Lateral humeral epicondyle, radial head, olecranon.
Olecranon, yeah, it's the subcutaneous border of the proximal part of ulna, isn't it? Yeah. So so that's a bony landmark. What is the internervous plane? Any surgical approach you're asked, you need to come out with the internervous plane.
Anconius by radial nerve and external ECU by posterior interosseous.
Oh, very good. So we got a internervous plane there. Okay, that's all I want to hear about that. Okay, we'll go to the next. Okay, I got some problem with that. Okay. Okay, so that is Koch's approach. Internervous plane is a radial nerve and posterior interosseous nerve between Anconius and ECRB or EU. Sorry, EU, not ECRB, my mistake. It's a lateral condyle to the subcutaneous border of ulna. Now, one problem with this is you can damage your lateral ulnar collateral ligament if you are not careful. So that can produce PLRI. So that is the reason why people have gone to Kaplan's. Are you aware of Kaplan's approach? Okay.
Head also.
Head off. Okay. Caucus is a posterolateral approach, actually. Okay. Kaplan is a true lateral approach. This internervous plane, there is no internervous plane there. Okay. And I'll tell you, I'll teach you what it is. Kaplan's approach, I usually do the Kaplan's approach. So there is no internervous plane because it is going through between the ECRB and EDC, both supplied by posterior interosseous nerve. And the landmarks are lateral condyle to the distal tubercle. So the proximal part of that line we are utilizing. Okay. And the danger here is a PAN, posterior interosseous nerve, but you are okay with the other structures, especially with your lateral ulnar collateral ligament. Okay, so that is the Caucus approach. Okay, so you can see that is to the subcutaneous border of your ulna. Okay, and it's a nice internervous plane. I won't go into the details of that. Okay, so what is a safe zone? Any head of when you said we can fix it, isn't it? This is one of those cases I fixed it. Okay, so where do you put your plate? Alternatively, what is your safe zone? Akhil, senior. I don't expect the junior guy to answer that.
No, sir.
But this question will be asked in the Viva and in the surgical anatomy. Okay, are you aware of that?
So between distal tubercle and radial styloid?
Distal tubercle and the radial styloid, that quadrant is the safe zone.
Very good. Very good. Exactly. So what you said is correct. Some is agreed that 110 degree, but some books says it's a 90 degree. As you said, it's between the proximal area corresponding to the radial styloid and distal tubercle distally. Okay, I have given that drawing as well. Okay, so the importance is that once you put it there, it won't impinge when you do rotation, supination, pronation. It won't impinge with the ulna. So it's actually in the posterolateral aspect of the radial head and it's a non-articular part of the radial head. That's the importance. So you need to know about that. Okay, so the next one is a 46-year-old female. It's a homemaker. Slipped and fell down a year ago. Fush. Fush means a fall on outstretched hand. Okay. This patient is complaining of a pain and difficulty in lifting up things. Okay, especially when she lift up pan and sort of thing, she find it very difficult to lift it up. Akhil Junior, can you read that radiogram?
Sir, anteroposterior radiograph of elbow showing and medial.
You being a junior, I'll give you a clue. Okay, that's the clue.
Medial.
Now, can you see my cursor moving, or is it difficult to see? Can you see the cursor?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. An avulsion at the avulsion at medial epicondyle.
Exactly. So, what is attached there?
Flexor.
Ulnar nerve is behind. Yeah. Okay. Flexor mass is there, bit more proximally. Apart from that, any ligament attached there, which is very important.
To the
anterior band of medial collateral.
Medial ulnar collateral ligament, isn't it? Who answered that? Who answered that? Who answered that question?
Ando. This is
proximal attachment is not the is a broad attachment of the anterior, posterior, and the transverse. Okay, transverse doesn't come there. Okay, so it's an attachment of the ulnar collateral ligament proximally. Distally, it fans out. It divides into anterior band, and posterior band, and in between there's a transverse band. So proximally, you will talk about only the anterior, only about the ulnar collateral ligament. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Distal attachment is the fanning out. Yeah, as you said, it's correctly. So how do you test that? So we will take it as an ulnar collateral ligament injury. What are the clinical tests? And you can chip in now. Which year you are in? And which year?
Final year. Final year.
Okay, go on. How do you test that?
Valgus
Clinical
stress.
test.
Valgus stress test.
Valgus stress test. Anything else? You want to see a valgus stress test? You can do it clinically, and also you can do the. Okay, that is a varus coming. Okay. Can you see that there is no endpoint? There is no endpoint when we are going valgus. Okay. Okay, it's a different patient. Okay, not the chronic. It's an acute patient. This one, which I have shown you. Okay, so how do you test valgus stability? And what position will you keep the elbow?
In semi-flexion.
How many degrees? You know, something like that. What you said is correct.
30 degree.
30 degree. 30. Why can you substantiate why you said 30 degree? What is the logic behind?
It relaxes the ligaments at 30 degree semiflexion. So we can.
No. That's not the answer. Think about something else. Can you think of?
Olecranon unlock. You have to.
Exactly. Very good. You are going to unlock the olecranon. If you are keeping the olecranon there, it's already locked, so you cannot test the your collateral ligaments. Okay, so that is why you would take. It's an acute patient. It's a different patient than the radiograph. So we are holding it there. Okay, can you see that? And you can see the ecchymosis around the medial condyle, medial epicondyle. Okay, so. Varus stress is fine. Valgus, see, you can see the valgus. You see that is going on. So that's the valgus stress test. You keep it 20 to 30 degree flexion, unlock the olecranon, and then valgus test. So you've got other. If you look at for the exam, you remember about milking test. Okay, keep the elbow straight. Keep the elbow straight and supinated, and keep the thumb abducted and pull on the thumb. You will feel that the patient will be apprehended, and you will feel that the elbow is opening up. Okay, that's milking test. And there's a chair lift test, something called chair lift test. You ask the patient to lift up the chair with one hand, like as I said, the lady couldn't lift up the pan. Okay, they feel pain in the medial aspect of the elbow. Okay, so that's chair lift test. Okay, usually the valgus stress test is we are clinically doing, but for the exam purpose, you need to know these things. Okay, so how do you manage acute UCL injury and the chronic UCL injury? Andrew is still there. We can answer that. We can continue answer. Andrew?
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. Akhil, can you chip up? Acute injury? Andrew?
Sir.
Take a step back. In the exam, you are not saying, I don't know. You can say at least non-operative, operative. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So you can do an operative or non-operative measures. How are you going to non-operative do that?
Elbow POP slap.
Yeah, it's a splending. You need to do that. Splint the patient. So if it's an isolated injury, you can always splint the patient. Okay? And as I showed earlier, you can use a functional brace to mobilize, to keep the valgus varus stability and the flexion, to keep the flexion extension. Or if it's a completely torn UCL, or if it's a professional athlete or somebody like that, weightlifters, want to go to gym, then you need to repair. Acutely you repair. Okay, it's usually avulsion, and then you repair it back to the bone. You will do fine. Okay, and then mobilize with your functional brace. And the chronic ulnar collateral ligament, what did you do? Chronic ulnar collateral ligament, you need to reconstruct. Okay, probably it's a bit beyond your level. We will reconstruct it, and this easiest thing is using palmaris longus tendon, okay, for reconstruction. And now, previously, what we used to do is something called Tommy Jones approach procedure. But nowadays, a lot of devices available, like in different screws and sort of available. So we can use whichever is comfortable. The only thing is that you need to do a reconstruction. And to use that, to do the reconstruction, the easiest way is to use a palmaris longus tendon. Okay. It's a 38-year-old homemaker, pain in the lateral aspect of elbow, on the dominant side. Achilles Jr. is still there, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is no injury. Pain in the lateral aspect of elbow, 38-year-old, so a middle-aged lady, homemaker.
Sir, most probably lateral epicondylitis, tennis elbow.
Very good. Anything else? So what are the differential diagnosis?
It can be from the
What? Sorry, tell me. At least senior, just help him. You give at least two, one or two.
can be a cervical pathology leading to pain in the lateral aspect of the elbow.
Sorry, what? Cervical pathology. Did you say cervical pathology? Akhil, what did you say? Akhil, are you there? Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Akhil, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now, differential diagnosis, Akhil senior.
So, tennis elbow or tendinitis?
Yeah, tendinitis, both are same. Yeah. Which tendon is involved, by the way, in lateral epicondylitis? Which tendon is the pathological one?
ECRB.
ECRB. Very good. So, since you did that, we'll tell you the differential diagnosis. Okay, radial tunnel syndrome, post-interosseous nerve syndrome, elbow lateral OA, fracture of radial head, cervical causes. That is very important. Okay, radiating pains, and Agonius syndrome. You just forget about Agonius syndrome. That's only theoretical value. I don't think that's it. Now, I just want you to know something about radial tunnel syndrome. And you heard
Yes,
of
sir.
radial tunnel syndrome?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Can you just give me what is radial tunnel and what is radial tunnel syndrome?
The ligament of the ulnar nerve passes. The
Which
radial
one?
nerve passes through the ligament of Struthus.
Okay. No, we are completely deranged. Okay.
Okay.
Is going through the radial nerve is going through the radial tunnel. Okay. Radial tunnel is on the radial side, anterolateral aspect. Is it? Okay. So it's on the just anterior to the radiocapitular joint. Okay.
So
So
there are 5.
the floor is radiocapitular joint capsule. Laterally, you got the lateral mass, like your brachioradialis and your ECRB. Medially, you got a brachialis tendon and a biceps tendon. So there's a small area through which radial nerve pass on, and it can be pressed on by anything, like a the arterial anastomosis, force arterial anastomosis. Okay, something like that, and the supinator, even the supinator. So when it's pressed by supinator, it's already becomes posterior nerve. So radial nerve or posterior nerve, depending on the situation, is compressed That is radial tunnel syndrome or posterior anterosseous nerve syndrome. Okay. That's all you want to know about things. Okay. So the management is, how do you manage lateral epicondylitis, Akhil Junior?
We can give, initially we can give tennis elbow brace.
Okay. What is the natural history? What is the natural history of lateral epicondylitis? How long will, if you don't do anything, most of them will settle in how long? What's the duration? What's the textbook saying?
Within 2 years it will settle down.
Yeah, most of them will settle in 4 to 6 months. Okay. And you will treat Akhil Junior?
Sir.
Now, so what will you give?
We can give, initially we can give conservative management by giving tennis elbow brace and NSAIDs.
Yeah.
And if it is not getting subsided, then we can give local injections of steroid.
Okay. Or some people uses PRP. Okay, some people doesn't agree with that. But these are all in the literature. Okay, so non-operative management and you got operative management. Operative management, you will release it. Okay, with a small incision or arthroscopically, you will release. What is Akhil Senior? What are the complications of a surgical treatment of a tennis elbow?
There's chance of infection.
Yeah, infection. That's with any stiffness elbow. Okay. When you answer that question in the exam,
posterior anterosseous.
No. There are two specific things the examiner will be looking for. One is a fistula formation. Okay, synovial fistula formation. Okay, it's very rare, but it can be associated with. Second thing is a PLRI. Okay, injury to the lateral ulnar collateral. Yeah. So these are the two things you need to come out. Okay. So next one is a 32-year-old male patient. Road traffic accident 18 months ago. Had a radial head fracture, dislocation. Okay. Actually it was an Arabic patient. Okay. Has got a stiff shoulder, not shoulder, stiff elbow. A dislocation. So it was 18 months, 1.5 years ago. I will show you. This is the way he presented to me. Okay, you know what it is. Anto, what is it? 18 months post injury. Very stiff elbow.
Maybe the radial head fragment will be inside the elbow joint.
It won't be that. See, look at that. The range of movement. Can you see the range of movement? I am using my both hands.
No movement.
It's a post-traumatic.
Go on. Who said? Go on.
Rohan. Yeah, it's a post-traumatic elbow stiffness, maybe due to posterior dislocation of the elbow that is preventing the flexion and extension.
Okay. What happens? What happens to the elbow injuries, especially with the radial head fractures and dislocation? What is the one very specific complication for stiffness? What is
myositis ossificans.
Exactly. Post-traumatic heterotrophic ossification. Okay, that probably is the better word. Okay. Okay, so that is the diagnosis. We got the diagnosis. Can somebody tell me the classification for the post-traumatic heterotrophic ossification? It's not pertaining to elbow, it's pertaining to hip. But in the exam, they can ask you. Anyone know? If not,
Bruker classification.
Exactly, Bruker's classification. I will show you what I did, okay, with the posterior.
It is related to
see, you can see that as a posterior approach and the complete release of the ligaments, rerouting the ligaments and rerouting the flexor extensor mass, everything, okay. Okay, so that is Bruker's classification. Okay, just go and read about Bruker's classification for your exam. It's not pertaining to elbow, so I just skip that. Okay, so what are the predisposing factors? That can be asked in anywhere. What are the predisposing factors there? Ando, you may be knowing. Just give me some. Ando is there?
Yes, sir.
Give me some predisposing factors. Akhil, you know?
There are multiple reduction attempts.
Okay.
Dislocation.
Massage after trauma.
Okay.
History of manipulation.
Okay.
High degree soft tissue injury.
High degree soft tissue injury. Okay, so injury severity score, high injury severity score. Very good. Nothing to do with the head injury or spinal injury? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So,
coma patient.
So where exactly it comes in? Which joints? Which joints?
Elbow.
Elbow. And
Hip, please.
After hip replacement, you see so many of the bone islands, isn't it? That is a heterotrophic ossification. Okay. So usually predisposed by in the brachialis muscle, gluteus and quadriceps. Male predominance, head injury, previous history of heterotrophic ossification, soft tissue lacerations with the hematoma, dish and ankylosing spondylitis. Okay, these are the predisposing factors. And if you look at the literature, you got a lot of them, but I have highlighted some in red, which is more important. Okay, so you need to read about that. How to prevent? That may be more pertaining to you. And you can answer how to. Any idea how to prevent it?
Sir, indomethacin treatment.
Low dose radiation, indomethacin.
Radiotherapy.
Yeah, low dose
Single
radiation.
dose.
Indomethacin, you said. Okay, and during surgery, it's very meticulous surgery. Yeah, very sharp dissection. Okay, and biphosphonate, especially etidronate. Okay, that will reduce the rate of ossification. Okay, now that's the last one. 49-year-old, she's a homemaker, Fush, isolated injury. Akhil Junior, you need to answer that. Can you answer that? Akhil Junior there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just read it. Just read it.
It's a lateral radiograph of elbow showing coronoid fracture.
Very good. It's a coronoid fracture. So what type of injury is that, Akhil Senior? Is it a rotation injury, or how do you describe it? Or why does it happen? Akhil?
It's a valgus injury, sir.
Okay, I will give you a clue. Is actually the plane is 90 degree to the elbow. Okay, the plane of your capitulum is 90 degree to your elbow, and the radial head is there. Is pressing onto the 90 degree. So what is it called? Buzzword is a vertical shear fracture. Okay, that's the buzzword there. Vertical shear fracture. Now, how do you classify it? You know what is the classification for? You know that, Andrew? You know?
No, sir.
Akhil, no?
Not getting, sir.
Okay, for the exam and for the Viva, it is important. Okay, type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 1 and 4 is easy. You can fix it you can fix it. But type 2 and 3, type 2, what happens is called a Cocker-Lawrence fracture. You've got a small area of a cartilage. It's more of a cartilaginous injury. So either you can shave it off, or you can put an anchor and suture it back. Okay, with a multiple building. And type 3 is a real menace with multiple fragments. We don't know what to do. And if it's mechanically blocking it, we need to take it out. And what is the approach you want to? What is the management? Akhil Senior?
Fixation. Non-operative and operative management.
There is no non-operative management for the type 1, the one I have shown. Okay.
Open reduction internal fixation.
Yeah, it's an intra-articular fracture, isn't it? For type 2 and type 3, we will talk about non-operative operative. Okay. For this one, no. So open reduction internal fixation with what?
We will use headless screws, sir. Hubbard screws.
We can use. And what approach you take? Okay, probably you are not very familiar with that. It's a typical lateral approach. Is the best approach. What happens is you can see the anterior part and the posterior part at the same time. You can make sure that it's not pressing onto. If you look at that screw, it's not actually piercing it. It's in the cartilaginous area. Okay. So you're actually safe there. So lateral approach. As I said, lateral approach. You remember the name of lateral approach?
Okay.
Okay.
It's not focus. Kaplan's approach. Okay. Just read about Kaplan's approach for this. Okay. And I think those we completed eight scenarios, and we are okay. We are 5 minutes past 9. Now, can I ask you what is the primary constraint of the elbow? Akhil Junior? Akhil Junior, what's the primary constraint of the elbow? So what are the primary constraints of the elbow?
Sir.
Remember? Akhil Senior? Anterior bundle of ulnar collateral ligament.
Medial, the lateral collateral ligament.
Which part? Which part? Lateral?
That lateral ulnar collateral.
Ulnar collateral ligament. And one more?
Ulnar-femoral joint.
No, coronoid. Coronoid. Anto?
Yes, sir.
What is cerebral triad?
Sir, it's a elbow dislocation, radial head fracture, and corner process fracture.
Okay. Oh, very good, very good. And Akhil Junior, what is attached to the anteromedial facet of coronoid?
Subbrachial is
Anteromedial aspect of anteromedial.
Anterior bundle of medial collateral.
Exactly, exactly. I think we have done that. We are done with that. Okay, thank you very much. If you want to ask any question.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, you can go through that. It is in the website. You can go through that. And elbow instability is a vast subject. It's probably a bit difficult to assimilate. So probably we'll talk about elbow instability so that you are very clear about elbow instability for your practice and for your exam as well, sometimes later. Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Divya?
Thank you, sir.
Divya, okay, thank you.
Yes,
Divya,
sir.
are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh,
Thank you,
your children are very good. They answered all of the questions. Yes, did you hear that? Very nice answer many of the questions. I didn't expect them, especially the elbow being a subspecialty. I didn't expect them to answer this many questions.
Sir. But you have taken it very well, sir. You have gone to the basics, dig out the basic constraints and the questions you asked. That's also, and the final wind up, just to summarize and to know how much they learned. Very, very, very good session, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyway, nalla session.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.